a matter of seconds, I don't know what I'm saying anymore. Okay. In a matter of seconds, a nuclear power plant that was responsible for holding at least 10% of Ukraine's electricity became a radioactive bomb. Most of you know what I'm talking about by now. I'm talking about Chernobyl. Today I'm going to be discussing what caused the nuclear reactor to explode and release radiation at the site. I'm going to be discussing it in 3 main points. The first point is going to be the area it happened in, the second will be the explosion itself, and the third point will be the quarantine efforts that were put in place to try and quarantine the radiation that was released due to the explosion. So let's talk about the area. It happened at a nuclear power plant called Chernobyl, and it happened just 2 miles from a city called Pripyat. Pripyat was the city that is most recognized to be associated with Chernobyl. The city had 47,000 residents at the time, according to a census called Ukraine.net, and they were evacuated immediately after the explosion happened. The site itself, the Chernobyl site, had 4 reactors. Number 4 is what exploded. So what caused it to explode? Well, the reactor was scheduled for a routine shutdown test. This happened to all of the reactors. All of them went through this test to make sure that just in case external power stopped coming to the radiator, it would still have enough power to to give Ukraine electricity. The test was said to be taking place at the non-nuclear part of the site, so it was considered to be relatively safe. Somewhere in between communication between workers and what needed to be done, and just thinking that they knew how to do it because it happened so often, the shutdown had to be stabilized at 700 megawatts. For some reason during this shutdown, power dropped to 30 megawatts, and it caused a power outage. Because it shut down so quickly, the nuclear power plant started to churn out graphite, and graphite is actually the core of the nuclear reactor. So once it started to churn out graphite, something started to go wrong, and a worker actually realized this. And he said to the chief officer at the time, which was Anatoly Dolov, "I see graphite on the floor." Anatoly Dolov is quoted to have said, "You don't see graphite," completely ignoring the issue. Once he ignored the issue, he told the workers to get the power plant megawatts back up. Once he told the workers to get them back up, they started to take out control rods from the reactor's core. Once you start to take out control rods from the reactor's core, which are put in place to absorb the electricity to either slow down the turbine and slow down, you can use turbine/reactor or speed it up. In this case, they were pulling it out so fast that it caused the nuclear reactor's power to surge up. An uncontrollable surge of power shot into the nuclear reactor because they were pulling out so many rods, and it shot up from 30 megawatts to 530 megawatts in a matter of seconds. Usually it takes minute by minute for you to go up by megawatts. Again, it led to an uncontrollable surge, and then the explosion happened. The explosion was to happen in two parts. First was the initial steam explosion. The steam explosion was just because all of the graphite that was being pulled out caused steam to build up in the core and then exploded. The second was a mixture of graphite and hydrogen that exploded from inside of the core and caused a fire, and all of the reactors around it to catch on fire. This was the main explosion that caused the biggest reaction, and this is what caused all of the radiation to come out of the reactor. So, what are the effects of this happening? The effects was that all of the reactors were destroyed, the core was destroyed, the power went out, and once all of that radiation happened, it released a specific type of radiation called gamma radiation. and gamma radiation is extremely deadly. Because of this, all of the people in Pripyat, which was just 2 miles away, had to evacuate the city immediately. And did I forget to mention, it was not just a little bit of radiation, it was at least 400 tons of radiation. So there was a lot of radiation going on. After the accident, the reactor had to be put under a concrete structure, but this wasn't strong enough. So then they enclosed it with a sarcophagus that is said to hold the radiation for at least 100 years. This is the only hopes of radiation being stopped from Chernobyl and spreading. Thank you so much for listening.